everyone, Malgorzata Bonikowska, the Center for International Relations. Welcome to our meeting, to our Zoom the World series. We do it together with Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, and we are very happy to do it in English today because the reason is we have a special guest from far away, Mrs. Zeenat Aluwihare. Hello, Zeenat.
Hello, good evening from Dili, Timor-Leste.
That's right. You are speaking to us from Timor-Leste, which is far away place and hardly known in Poland, and that's why we want to talk about your country. And with us is also Tomasz Łukaszuk. Hello, Tomasz.
Hello.
Tomasz was our ambassador to Indonesia and also to India, covering also neighborhood countries like Bhutan, like Sri Lanka, like Nepal. But it's also an expert on South and Southeast Asia, and exactly Timor is just in the middle of this fascinating region, which is now emerging as key region of interest for the Europeans as well, also Central Eastern Europeans who are not so familiar with this region yet. So, Zeenat, first question to you. Please brief us a little bit about your recent elections, just happened during the weekend.
Correct. Timor-Leste is a country of 21 years. We celebrated our restoration of independence on Saturday, marking 21 years. And then on Sunday, thank you so much. And then on Sunday, we had I believe it was the 6th elections for parliamentarians. The election had many parties running. It was a very free and peaceful election process. Last year we had our presidential election, and so this year was followed by the parliamentarian election. And though figures have not been confirmed yet by the Court of Appeal or the legal system, it appears that Xanana Gusmão, our previous Prime Minister's party, CNRT, has won the election with 42% of the vote. So I'm really happy to say that democracy is alive and well and very healthy in this country, very much appreciated in this country. And it's really a tenet of what Timor-Leste is all about.
Congratulations for the elections, and we are very happy also to have you. I didn't mention this yet because this is a suspense I have for everybody. Zeenat is really connected to Poland also because she has been, it has been at least 1 year, it was expected earlier, but pandemic stopped it, our Honorary Consul of Poland to Timor-Leste, East Timor, and we are very happy to have you over. And before I put more questions to you, I want to ask now Tomasz. Tomasz, you know the region so well, and you have been also the ambassador of Poland to Indonesia, which is really next doors to Timor, and
Timor-Leste as well.
That's right, and yes, covering
yes, additional accreditation.
So, if you can explain to us from our Polish perspective, you know, what is, how would you describe this little country, but country who is more and more visible in the region?
I will describe this way. It's if we are speaking, for example, now about Indo-Pacific, I mean, somewhere between Indian Ocean and Pacific. So this is the place where East Timor is located. And East Timor is somewhere in between Indonesia and Australia as well. Its territory is 15,000 square kilometers only, but its location matters. Its location matters is a very strategic. Is where all the let's say biggest navies are passing the waters of Timor on their way from Indian Ocean to the Pacific. The population is a little bit around 1,300,000. But I would say it's really a very, very ambitious country, judging from the developments in economy and in politics for the last 20 years.
So by population, we can compare it a little bit to Estonia for our European standards. Of course, as far as the profile of the country is is a lot of differences. Timor is just at the beginning of its development. Let's put it this way. So, Zeenat, as you can just mention to us, because your family and you yourself, you are very much into the business as
Correct.
well. Could you just tell us a little bit more as far as that, Timor-Leste as a business destination and as a place where you definitely look at, the growth opportunities and business opportunities in not only in the region, right?
Yes, so Timor-Leste is a great place to do business. There is an incredible amount of opportunity here because the country, though 21 years old, is still in its infancy. What I can find and appreciate, our family has had business here for 21 years, and what my experience is that the Timorese people are incredibly resilient, incredibly hardworking, and they really want to do their part in giving back to their country and their community. I find that with all places around the world, there are challenges. Of course, there are different departments and administrative bodies which are still in their infancy and growing. But our experience has been that if you persevere and if you really commit to a place like Timor-Leste, the reward can be incredible.
But if I may, your location, it seems that you should be maybe the most interested in the neighborhood, which means Australia, Papua New Guinea, Indonesia as well, right? Is this so, or you look much further, like Europe, for example?
I think economically it makes sense to be part of the region, and that's one of the reasons why Timor-Leste is working towards its accession into ASEAN. Strategically, as Ambassador Łukaszuk mentioned, it is a very promising place, a great location between Australia and the rest of Asia. And with such a young population, we have a labor force just ready, willing, incredibly enthusiastic to do their work. So there is opportunity if people would like to start businesses here in Timor-Leste and then have their businesses perhaps export to other countries, such as Europe. Manufacturing is a huge opportunity in Timor-Leste, also tourism. And our experience in being in Timor-Leste has been that if you do your research before you come here, if you meet with the right people, if you get in touch and find out the right information, will have everything that you require in order to make the biggest moves and changes when you're here on the ground.
So definitely there is a place to look at least to, be a little bit more interested. From our perspective, Central Eastern Europe, Poland particularly, of course, it's a faraway country. And it's also, a country we know very little about. That's why let's dig into the past a little bit. Tomasz, if you can just help me and our viewers also to understand from where, Timor-Leste comes, because it's a long history of also European presence. There were Portuguese there until recently. Then there was this history with Indonesia. Then there was tough time for Timor, a really difficult time, and finally, United Nations, and then finally independence. So, Tomasz, could you tell us a little bit more about these stages in history of Timor?
Right. I mean, speaking about stages in history, so in other countries in Southeast Asia, so the Portuguese came in the beginning of 16th century, and they also just settled on the island, and century after them, so the Dutch people came following the other colonial countries, and Timor became a part of one part of Timor became the Portuguese colony as the Portuguese Timor, and the second half it's became a part of the Dutch East India, Dutch East India the company, and it was until until 1914, where actually the dispute between Netherlands and Portuguese lasted, and only in the beginning of the 20th century they signed a border agreement, and the current border is the border which actually was between Indonesia and Timor-Leste. The history of Indonesia as independent country is a different story, but when the Indonesia born, 1945, as we know, and until 1975, so the Portuguese Timor was a neighbor to Indonesia, and 1975 Portuguese they left Timor-Leste, and independence was proclaimed as a democratic union of the Timorese. Indonesia interference was in 1975. As it was reported by many journalists and media, so it was an intervention in coordination with Australia and the United States, because it was the time of the war in Vietnam and the war in Indochina, and it was the time when those countries, Australia and United States, they were afraid of the so-called domino effect. That's why they decided to intervene and to occupy East Timor. And then for the 24 years, it was the story of occupation when according to several sources, between 200 up to 250,000 people lost their lives, because it was not only the regular occupation, but it was a guerrilla war went on for all those years. Because we have to remember that the location is one thing, but there are a lot of mountains and hills on this island, and for the occupation of Timor, it wasn't easy to have the power and the control over the whole territory of East Timor. And then it was 1999 came, and I witnessed the referendum, and then the United Nations administration until 2002. But what was important for East Timor, that the East Timor has outstanding personalities, like Xanana Gusmao mentioned already, or the current president, Ramos Horta.
Let's stop here for a minute, because it's a really long and complicated history, and sometimes even painful. Zeenat, I want to ask you about, first of all, to comment on that, but also about these feelings, how people in Timor-Leste feel about all that. And especially vis-a-vis countries Tomek mentioned, Indonesia from one side, which is now the direct neighbor, and on the same island also. Then we have Portuguese, which were in the past, who were in the past, and who also, that's my question, who could now be also of help in a way in the path of growing. And also about this UN mission, there was a Portuguese guy, Sergio de Mello, recorded by a recent film, even in Netflix, you can watch his story. He died later on in Iraq. All that, how do people feel about the past before we comment on the present?
I think the people of Timor-Leste really hold a space and respect for their history. I think that the population have gone through the most unimaginable, challenging circumstances in just the last 50, 60 years. And I think the way that they have managed to move forward from this so beautifully is they believe in forgiveness and being friends with everyone, regardless of what has happened historically, and trying to move forward, because it's an awful and terrible thing that happened, but holding on to that negativity and that the issues that come with that will actually not be of any benefit to anyone. So
in a way, you were in the middle of, in the Cold War times, you were in the middle of big powers. You know, you were just a tiny place where, you know, big players were playing actually. So it's always, you know, it's similar to maybe sometimes Poland. Poland is much bigger, maybe as population, but we have similar experience.
And absolutely, you know, there are so many synergies and similarities between the history of Poland and Timor-Leste that actually come up quite often when we have Polish visitors coming here, that even the leaders, you know, reflect back to whoever our visitors are. Indonesia, we share actually a half island. So there is the east of Timor, East Timor, and then West Timor, which is part of Indonesia, and it's quite a porous border. Indonesian people are welcomed with open arms as our, you know, brothers from the other side of the island and sisters. And then, of course, the same with the Portuguese. Timorese people are eligible with the, you know, correct paperwork to obtain a Portuguese passport. So you have a lot of Timorese people that actually identify as Portuguese and travel.
And Portuguese as a language is spoken in the island. Many people know the language.
It is one of the official languages. So we have two, Tetun, which is a local dialect, and Portuguese. And then, of course, we have English and Bahasa Indonesia as our working languages. And then because we have Portuguese as one of our official languages, Timor-Leste is part of the CPLP, which is the Community of Portuguese Language-Speaking Nations. So I think that Timor, as a model of forgiveness and harmony and positivity and looking forward, is really something that a lot of countries can learn from. But of course, they also really prioritize freedom, respect, and communication during times of conflict. So Timor-Leste are absolutely vehemently against the awful atrocities happening in the Ukraine. Just a few days ago, our president, who is also a Nobel Peace Laureate, President Horta.
Which is also important to know, yeah, to stress.
Absolutely.
Nobel Prize winner.
Absolutely.
1996 was this the date?
96, I believe. Yes.
Oh yes, these eminent personalities are still in politics, so there is a continuation in this sense.
From the media and what I've been reading regarding this election, it's really the last election with these personalities, these historical figures. They're really promoting the next generation and wanting to leave the country in a position that is really beneficial for future generations. But they feel like this is their last shot, this next 5 years.
This is 2 decades they were transforming the country, they were leading the country, but after 2 decades, there are new generations coming to take a lead.
Yeah, yeah, because we have Prime Minister Taun Mataruak. I mean, there's all of them. I mean, Taun Mataruak, Shanana Gusmao, the Ramshort. I mean, those are the charismatic leaders since 1970s, and now is the turn for the new generation. But the question is, so who is the leader of those, say, charismatic new generation?
And also the question is how to keep the new generations, especially the youngest, you know, people, students. You have universities in Timor, and how to keep them home, how to encourage them to stay when the world is so connected and they can easily go to the other countries to look for better chances. Zeenat, what would be your answer, you think?
So as it stands currently, overseas remittances actually play a huge part of domestic revenue. So that money coming in from overseas for people that are working as seasonal workers or going to Portugal or Europe and, you know, looking for better opportunities. But there is a lot of talk internally in the country of the government focusing on economic development for this next 5-year tenure of this new government. And I think because we have such a young, willing, vibrant population, there are so many people willing to do the work. Now we're just needing jobs to fill them in. So with the ASEAN ascension, we're hoping that that will just really open up opportunity for businesses in the country, and that will really kickstart, you know, re-energize the economy, because of course with COVID and natural disasters, we've had a government with a duodecimo budget system, which has also affected the economy. We're looking forward to things kind of on the up and up. So
let's dig into this a little bit, because you mentioned twice ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian States. So let's look at this organization a little bit more carefully. It's really an important organization for Southeast Asia region, founded in 1967. Maybe Tomasz, you can tell us a little bit about the importance and the role of this organization, facing the news that Timor will be a part of it, will be the 11th member this year.
Right, East Timor is coming to the roadmap was accepted in Labuan Bajo 2 weeks ago over the ASEAN summit. But speaking about the membership, certainly it's incomparable to the number of the meetings and let's say also the budget, but still there are 1,600 meetings of ASEAN annual. So 1,600 meetings, it's really a big number, especially for a young nation. Not speaking about the membership fee, it's $2.5 million a year.
So you also see it as a challenge, not also as an opportunity, right?
Yes, because you have to. This is not only an opportunity, but the challenge. You have to establish embassies in every country. As usual, you have to also to delegate your people to the different pillars, because we have since 2015 we have ASEAN community with 3 pillars. I mean, this is security, economic, and social, cultural.
These 3 pillars and this thing of being a little bit more close to each other. It's recognized. We recognize the European Union idea or influence. Of course, it's not comparable, but
yes, certainly it's much smaller, but in terms of population, so ASEAN is now 625 million, so it's much bigger than European Union.
European Union after Brexit is around 400 million, right?
Yes, right. So ASEAN is in terms of population. So all the ASEAN countries are almost as young as Timor, and Timor. The Timorese way to ASEAN started 12 years ago, when for the first time they officially applied for the membership. But certainly they became a member of ASEAN Regional Forum already in 2005, so 3 years after independence. And they also 2 years after that they signed 2007. They signed something which is a key treaty to all the countries who would like to cooperate with ASEAN or who would like to be a member. It's a treaty on amity and cooperation.
Why do you think it's worth for Timor-Leste to join ASEAN, taking into consideration the price they had to pay as well?
Yeah, I mean, you are. I mean, we in every organizations you are contributing to the budget of that organization. But in my opinion, so Timor-Leste, like Poland, for the first decade or 2 decades of its membership, will be a net beneficent of this. Of the budget and all the program, because ASEAN also has a strategy. I mean, of the cohesion and all this, say, helping the less developed countries, members of the association, to reach the goals. And for Timor-Leste is very, very much important to have this status of LDC, I mean less developed country, in a few years to come, to become a developing country, not all less developed country, and the membership of in ASEAN, and with all the projects. I'm speaking about the maritime cooperation. I'm speaking about the socio-economic cooperation and free trade for ASEAN, for being a member of free trade agreement, not only with ASEAN, but if joining ASEAN, also Timor-Leste will become a member of the RCEP, I mean the Regional Economic Cooperation Partnership with all the countries of Northeast Asia, plus Australia and New Zealand. So it will be extremely beneficial to open also the markets for Timor and of those countries. And I'm not speaking about coffee only, which Timor-Leste is famous of, or sandalwood, but I think the tourism is the well-hidden secret, and the potential in tourism is a well-hidden secret of Timor-Leste.
So before we dig into this, I want to ask Zeenat also about ASEAN, but from a different perspective. I understand that that's a huge chance to be one of a larger group, to participate to an alliance, to an organization which is of all your important members, especially such important members like Indonesia, with the headquarters of ASEAN in Jakarta, but also Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, so countries of different size and potential, Singapore, Myanmar, with all the political problems as well. You will be one of the smallest, actually the smallest, actually. The smallest. So, of course, ASEAN is not exactly the same, as far from being same like the European Union, but we here in Europe, we understand more or less how European Union works. So we have this free movement of goods, we have free movement of services, people, etc. In ASEAN, it's not exactly the same, but you can also benefit from this ASEAN community, not community, but economic community, economic market, right? Being a businesswoman, being a business, family, actually, what do you exactly expect? How can it look in 10 years, 20 years, Timor, once you enter ASEAN?
We're hoping through the ascension into ASEAN that really the diversification of the economy will just be projected. Of course, we have our oil and gas funds, which is, largely fueling the economy, but those resources are finite. So we're really looking forward to, in this next term of government with ASEAN, to be part of an arrangement in this, regional group, to have beneficial trade arrangements with our neighbours, to make Timor-Leste a preferred place for international organisations and businesses to do manufacturing and, to make products, sell products around the world. I think if we look forward to 10, 20 years, Timor-Leste will be a bustling, country, though it's much smaller in size to its ASEAN neighbours. But there's, a lot that Timor-Leste has to offer. I think the fact that the population is young is quite a promising asset that we have. So we have a lot of very resourceful young people looking for work and incredibly bright. I think that with ascension into ASEAN, there is so much opportunity for Timor-Leste to grow. And that's really shown as a priority for this government and hopefully for the next government.
And if I may ask you about tourism, because Tomasz mentioned this sector as a driver, one of the future drivers of your economy. Where are you? Which level? Where are you now as far as tourism? What is your starting point?
We are very untouched. So Timor-Leste as a country offers mountains, oceans. Actually, the most biodiverse waters are found in an island across from Dili, where I live, called Atauro. And it is a haven for snorkeling and diving. Actually, we've found that over the years prior to the pandemic, every now and then we would have some Polish tourists who have an incredible wanderlust and who love to come to countries off the beaten track and, you know, experience something incredibly different.
That's interesting that there are some Polish tourists, even in Timor-Leste, so far away. Not many, though.
Right. Correct. Not many. I mean, considering the numbers, I was surprised to say perhaps one a month, every month. And the way they would come upon us is they would just be doing research on Timor-Leste, and they would say, "Oh, okay, we have a presence in Timor," and they would come to my office and ask me if I was Polish, and I would say, "I wish, but I'm not. But you know, welcome."
So you will welcome many more. We hope to, you know, to encourage people to go and see Timor-Leste, and also, you know, the honorary consul normally knows about everybody who comes. Hopefully nothing will happen, no passport loss, nothing like that. But tourism is everything to build because your hotel base is not yet so well developed.
So for the numbers of tourists that we have at the moment, we have sufficient hotels. But of course, it's a situation of the chicken and the egg. Do you build more hotels and wait for the tourists to come, or do we wait for the tourist economy to grow before we build more? Timor-Leste is showing a huge priority in developing the hospitality and tourism sector, which has unfortunately taken a blow post-COVID. But there are many organizations being run in collaboration with government organizations from different countries, working with the Ministry of Tourism and Commerce here in Timor-Leste, really looking to promote tourism, because what we have in Timor-Leste is really quite unique. And it's a country that has a very fascinating history, and we welcome you know, with open arms, anyone to come, Polish or otherwise. Please come to Timor-Leste.
So before coming, let's learn a little bit more. And Tomasz, now I would like to ask you, not only as a diplomat, but also as a political scientist. You are representing Warsaw University today, the Faculty of Political Science and International Studies. We have to think about the region Indo-Pacific. Now everybody looks at Indo-Pacific, and we have very important players in the region. We have United States, we have China, and very much south, it's Australia. Do you see, Tomasz, how do you see the environment around Timor-Leste, the political situation in the context of these big giants, you know, well, having issues, let's put it this way?
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting, but we are speaking for the last 40 minutes about Timor-Leste, and we didn't mention the deposits of oil and gas in
that
the
comes
Timor
next.
Strait.
For some countries, it is not a benediction. For some countries, it's a nightmare.
For Timor, not at all, but for certainly the geopolitical location of East Timor, as I mentioned in the very beginning of our conversation, is extremely significant, and for some countries even critical. The cooperation, I mean, the relations of Timor-Leste with China, with Australia, with the United States are very well developed, and all those countries, they have quite big embassies there, and they are really trying to keep the relations at the highest possible level, because Timor location is, I would say, very potentially one of the critical points in a competition between the United States and China over Indo-Pacific and over the maritime issues in Indo-Pacific. Well, certainly Timor-Leste will follow the ASEAN way, and will try to balance its relations with all the countries from Indo-Pacific at the same level. I'm speaking about China. I'm speaking about United States and other big countries, and this also one important element is that Timor is a small country and a small island country. So it belongs also to the association of small islands countries, and for the geopolitical purpose, also I presume that would be now even more active at the United Nations, especially in terms of the climate change and the sea level rise, together with all other small island countries, not only from Indian Ocean, but also from southwestern part of Pacific Ocean.
Zeenat, I have to put the same question to you, but maybe in a slightly different way. You are not a politician, you are not a political scientist, but you are there in the region. If you can just tell us how people think, what people think, how people feel about all these changes in the world and in the region as well, about this China, which is more and more visible in the region, and about the challenges. We are discussing, you mentioned yourself, war in Ukraine, and we are discussing our own problems. What are you discussing in Timor-Leste?
Timor-Leste is discussing peace and democracy. I think in terms of the relationship that Timor-Leste has with our neighbors, including China, Australia, Indonesia, it is nothing but a positive and cordial relationship. The things that Timor-Leste is really looking forward to, I think, is looking inwards. So whilst everyone has their own issues on the global stage, and of course Timor-Leste doesn't shy away from speaking up about what is right, I think the focus of Timor-Leste is really to look at the country and work on improving things for the people of Timor-Leste and the future of the country.
But you cannot do it completely without the external forces. So you need, you need strong alliances, you need strong partners, not only in economy, but also in this political environment.
Yes. And I think what Timor-Leste has done is that it is friends with everybody. It's not picking or choosing sides, unless that, there is a side that is absolutely doing the wrong thing, not enabling another country to live freely, people to have happy, safe lives. Timor-Leste as a country is really an example of how having a good relationship with everybody can work, I think, in practice, because not picking sides between one regional partner and the other, even in terms of, as we mentioned earlier, and why I didn't actually bring it up before, is Timor-Leste is so much more than just oil and gas. But even in this discussion with Australia regarding the oil and gas, and of course the issues that came out of that, it has maintained a very positive relationship with the Australians, despite all of the negotiations happening. So I think in terms of what's happening in the region, Timor-Leste is willing to, contribute to the good, but then also look inwards before, casting aspersions and judgment on others, unless it is something that is really just, inappropriate and heinous.
Well, comparing to, again, Poland, we can say that 2 decades is always building base, and then the third decade is, like flying. So I just hope this will be a chance for Timor to grow. So my last question to Tomek will be about Poland. Do you think, from your experience being an ambassador in Indonesia and Timor-Leste, what would you tell the Polish companies, the Polish people who would like to be a little bit more interested in Timor? Do you think there are chances for us to do something, that not only to go and see as tourists, but maybe to build some businesses or partnerships?
Well, I think that for the businessman, first of all, is what is the mood what is the mood about Poland in a particular country. And I think that our honorary consul, Zeenat Aluwihare, can agree with me that the mood about Poland is very good, and the atmosphere there is excellent. Not speaking about the monument of one of the greatest Poles in the history, in Delhi. John Paul II is located there. In terms of the good memories of Poland, so Polish people were involved in the UN missions for several years in Timor, for quite important also posts, and when speaking about what are the opportunities, so first of all, the tourism. Second is infrastructure, the port infrastructure. Another thing is the food processing is something which might be very attractive for Polish businessmen to invest. And last but not least is so-called mariculture. Mariculture, the fishery farms, the farms at the sea. This is something which we are famous of, and we are famous also for the production of smoked fish, and I believe that it would be also interesting sector to be involved in Timor-Leste.
So we have to check with the business community here the interest. Maybe we can bring more people to Timor-Leste in the nearest future. Zeenat, last question goes to you, because I will really wonder what brought you to this decision to take this honorary consul position of Poland. Why Poland?
Essentially, when the Polish government was looking forward to establishing a base or presence in Timor-Leste, the former president at the time, President Ramos Horta, who is our current president, he was asked to nominate a few people who he thought might be appropriate for the role. And one of the people that he nominated was actually my father. So my father is my predecessor in this role, and he had this role for 8 years. But unfortunately, due to his health, he was unable to stay in Timor-Leste. So actually, I was doing the role unofficially for him for quite some years until he resigned formally. And then our ambassador based in Jakarta, well, the Polish ambassador based in Jakarta, and also President Horta, both nominated me for the role. So it's an incredible honor that I have to represent the Polish people. It's quite an interesting story to tell people when they ask me if I have any Polish heritage, and they try to find where I fit in the world. But as a global citizen, my heart belongs to Timor, and I have a bit of Polish in there somewhere. And I've been to Poland, and though it was a very quick trip, Poland has so much to offer. It's really hard to sum up the experience of Poland just in a few words, because each city, each region is so incredibly different and vibrant. And, I would really love for Polish people to be able to come here to Timor-Leste, and also for Timorese people to go to Poland, because as Ambassador Łukaszuk mentioned, we have Pope John Paul II as one of the most beloved people in Timor-Leste, being a predominantly Catholic country. He was actually one of the very first people who put the plight of the Timorese people on the global map. He visited Timor-Leste in 1989, so while still occupied, and had a mass here. And that really put the struggle of the Timorese people in the faces of the world, and eventually brought about change. So as far as Polish people are concerned, they are beloved in Timor-Leste, and they are always welcome in Timor-Leste. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity. But as we've mentioned through this podcast, with ASEAN, I think that what we hope for is that there will be a lot of people seeing the opportunities in Timor-Leste. And so we really hope that Polish businesses take the opportunity and come here and establish businesses here, because there is so much benefit and positivity that can come from it. We also have, just on a last point, a local organization that is through the government called Trade Invest. And they are actually the specific government arm that deal with foreign investors looking to do business here. And there are examples of other companies that have had businesses done through Trade Invest. And with the help of Trade Invest, you can find benefits through tax or maybe acquiring land. There's nothing that I think that there's a lot of possibilities and potential here.
Thank you so much for this talk. We didn't yet discuss anything about Timor-Leste. That's our first time, and we are really happy to have two of you over. Congratulations for your elections, for your democracy, for your independence. Just to stress, 2002, Timor-Leste, an independent country, still there after 2 decades of transformation, facing the 3rd decade and a prosperous future, hopefully, as a new member of ASEAN, as a friend of Poland. Thank you very much, Zeenat. Thank you, Tomasz, for this talk. Malgorzata Bonikowska, the Center for International Relations. See you for next month on our Zoom the World series.